My name is Sarah Ogletree. I am the program coordinator at North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light, which is the energy and creation justice program of the North Carolina Council of Churches. And it's my honor to welcome you to today's webinar conversation, LED Lighting for Communities of Faith. This webinar is offered via, as I said, our partnership with Greenhound Energy, who you will hear from shortly. And today you will also hear from John Riley of the John Riley Group regarding LED installations specifically. LED lighting presents a beautiful opportunity for congregations to address climate change and work for justice for their neighbors by saving energy and putting less pollution and greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Again, we're incredibly grateful to be able to offer this resource to faith communities in our network, and we do hope that you will share what you learned today with others in your communities. This webinar will be posted on our NCIPL Facebook page where you can watch just right now live. And it will also be on our NCIPL YouTube page. So this will be an evergreen resource that you can continue to access with your faith community, with your pastor, with your faith leader, as you have these conversations about energy efficiency and savings. Please feel free to reach out to Ron DeFelice of Greenhound Energy. His information is here on this first slide. Myself and NCIPL Director Susanna Tuttle with any questions that you may have regarding today's material. We also want to give you a chance to get to know us a bit better. So if you could just, Susanna, pass to the next slide, please. Just want to offer a bit more information about us. So as we said, Ron DeFelice is the founder and CEO of Greenhound Energy. He is with us today. He is a veteran clean tech entrepreneur with more than 19 years experience with all types of clean energy technologies and markets. So he is a great person to be with us today, to be resourcing us and helping us do this work. He also has a PhD in chemistry from Virginia Tech and an MBA from the Keenan Flagler School at UNC. As I said, I am the program coordinator at North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light, and I'm the point of contact for congregations statewide regarding NCIPL programs and sustainability initiatives. So if you are interested in LED lighting, please do contact me and I can help get you in touch with all of these wonderful people or answer any other questions that you may have. I've been doing this work for 5 years professionally. I have a Master's of Divinity from Wake Forest School of Divinity. I would love to speak with you more about all of these topics. And lastly, we do have Susanna Tuttle, the director of NCIPL, with us today. Susanna is, as I said, our director of NCIPL. She's also on the National IPL board. She does work with the Southeast Climate and Energy Network, SIN. She is their treasurer. And she has connections to the UNC Law School Center for Climate, Energy, and Environment and Economics. She's on their advisory board. So she also is incredibly deeply connected to this work, and we're grateful to be able to come together to have this conversation around LED lighting. I'm going to pass it to Susanna with that.
Thanks, Sarah. We are so happy to be here in another presentation with our trusted partner at Greenhound. At North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light, we believe in the power of partnerships. This is how we're able to resource, educate, inspire, and mobilize our congregational network across the state. Greenhound really extends our reach, as this slide shares. They are a trusted third party that is independent of vendors, helps us get connected with solar installers, energy efficiency experts, provides group education sessions. It's a simple, repeatable process for non-experts. So members of our congregation can get involved in looking at all of the opportunities to move into energy efficiency and clean renewable energy without having to know the ins and outs of all of it, because Greenhound is there to help us make these decisions. It's an easy way to compare options for quicker decision making and looking into financing options to limit the upfront costs and leverage our tax credits. So again, here at North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light and across the North Carolina Council of Churches network, we believe in the power of partnerships, and we're just so honored to be graced by the presence of Ron and John today. Thanks so much. I'm going to hand it over.
Thank you, Susanna, and thank you, Sarah. I am Ron DeFelice, CEO of Greenhound. Happy to be here today presenting on the Greenhound platform, which removes barriers for greening up all types of buildings. And today our focus is going to be on LED lighting projects for faith-based buildings. But before we get into LEDs, just a little bit more about what is Greenhound to give you some insight into what is it exactly we do. We are a matchmaker for green projects, plain and simple. And through our partnership with the North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light, we connect communities of faith that are interested in green projects for their buildings with vetted and local solution providers that can do the work. So we exist for basically one single reason, and that's to make it easy for groups to evaluate and proceed with projects that make economic and environmental sense. And so this slide up here shows how it works. On the left-hand side, a church member, a point of contact with the church who's interested in a green project for their building. Right now, it's either solar or LED lighting, would put their contact information and project info up on Greenhound. It literally takes 5 minutes. We've made it super easy to do this for non-experts. The project goes up on the website, and we have a network of partners that we've already vetted and are part of our networks. They get an email about the project that's been posted, and they decide if this is a project that's a fit for them. And they have 7 days to pursue the project or not. And so you'll either get a proposal back if it was a solar project within 7 days, or you'll get an email or a phone call for LED lighting, which is a little more complex. And so they'll contact you to come walk the building and do a lighting audit. And it's basically that easy, and there's no obligation. So we made it really easy up front for you to explore options for your building. And with the tools we have now online, you can actually learn so much about what a building needs and what you could do for a building just from an address. And so we leverage that and the expertise of our partners. Next slide, please. So I mentioned we're in solar and LED lighting currently, but you can see on the left-hand side the different areas where we are looking to expand and offer services. But basically, we stand in the middle. We're the matchmaker. You have a project that you think makes sense for your building, you put it up. And these are the types of buildings that we focus on the right-hand side. And of course, today we're talking about communities of faith and church buildings. Next slide, please. I mentioned solar is live on Greenhound, and so we've got a great network of solar installers already on the site. And so we are open for business. Put your project or potential project up, and you will get responses. Right now, we're just in North Carolina, but we have eyes to expand this nationally because there is such a need for removing barriers. And going solar and LED lighting makes so much sense financially right now that we are just trying to make it really easy for those projects to proceed. So the website's up there, greenhoundenergy.com, and you can go register and post a project. Seriously, literally within 5 minutes. It's that easy. Next slide, please. So now we are happy to announce LED lighting project connections. And so when you think about LED lighting and what it might mean for a building and why you'd want to do it, here's an example pulled from a rather large and historic church in Roman Catholic Archdiocese in St. Paul. And this is a great example of an LED project and what it could mean for your building. This shows, all the benefits and basically the bottom line on the right-hand side of these benefits. So you get better lighting for your building, reduced energy costs. In this case, it was 70% reduction in energy costs related to lighting, and you get improved lighting lifetimes. For a lot of churches, the maintenance on lighting can be a huge expense because the lights are often in difficult to reach places. And so when you have a light that can last 10 years instead of 2, it actually makes a huge difference in maintenance costs. So on the right-hand side, you see the result, which is lower electricity costs every month. Lower maintenance costs. In this case, there was a payback period, which means they recoup their investment within 2 years of the project. And of course, you have the reduced carbon footprint from using a lot less electricity. Next slide, please. So just a quick primer on LEDs. Light-emitting diodes, that's what LED stands for. We're basically using semiconductors to convert electricity into light, which is a much more efficient way to do lighting. This graph here shows the power needed for the different types of bulbs. So we have watts on the left-hand axis needed to power a bulb, and then we have the different types. Incandescent has been around for over 100 years, of course. Halogen in a lot of buildings, and then the final one is LED. And you can see with incandescents, they're hugely inefficient. So 90% of that electricity goes into waste heat instead of actually lighting a building. And so that's why we see such improved efficiency when you go to LEDs, because they convert 80% of the energy into light, and you only have about 20% waste heat with today's LEDs. So you're using a lot less electricity because the conversion into light is so much more efficient with semiconductors. Next slide, please. And I thought I'd give a local case study with one of our partners, Victory Lights. And so this is a church. This is Wilson Mills Baptist Church in Smithfield, North Carolina. And they started to get interested in their options because they had poor light quality, high energy bills, high maintenance costs, and they had heard about LEDs and wanted to see what could be done with their building. And this was a highly favorable project in terms of outcome economically, and also just having better lighting. So the result was 82% energy savings from lighting. Their payback period was under a year, so they recouped their investment through the energy savings in 9 months, and they ended up with lighting that is over 10 years maintenance free. And they're able to do this because in North Carolina and actually across the country, there are substantial rebates available for converting lighting to LEDs. And so in North Carolina, there are substantial rebates for converting your lighting. And when I turn it over to John Riley, he'll talk about the process for doing that, but basically the vendors will help you with the paperwork and make sure that you get all the rebates available for the building. But these make projects highly economically attractive right now because of the rebates available. And so with that, next slide, please. I'm going to turn it over to John Riley from the John Riley Group out of Raleigh. And so they are a trusted vendor that has been doing LED lighting retrofits for over 7 years now, and he's going to tell you a little bit about their company and the process. Turn it over to you, John. Thanks.
Thanks, Ron. Hello, everyone. I'm also very happy to be here, and I want to tell you a little bit about our company and our process, because I think it'll be helpful for you to get a better idea of what's involved in an LED lighting upgrade. We're a turnkey provider. We do design, installation, and maintenance. And my partners and I started the company in September 2013. So we've completed hundreds of successful projects across the state. And our focus is primarily offices, warehouses, worship space, obviously, theatrical, and exterior or parking lot lighting. Over the years, we've vetted a large number of manufacturers, and we really believe that our product mix consists of fixtures whose quality and reliability are second to none. As a Duke trade ally, we work closely with Duke to ensure you receive the rebates due to you in a timely manner. And just to give you an idea, a 2x4 fluorescent troffer currently has a $40 rebate, and a typical parking lot fixture has a $75 rebate. Next slide, please. We'll begin the process by surveying your facility, as Ron mentioned, and we'll ask your facility's personnel to assist in this process. We use North Carolina licensed electrical engineers to do this work, and they have a little over 20 years experience in lighting design. We really believe your project deserves the expertise that they bring to bear, and the project just wouldn't be as comprehensive without their input throughout the process. They'll document everything with regard to your fixtures, the quantity, the lamp type, the wattage, the voltage, how switching is done, or if it's a dimming space, and of course, whether or not the fixture is an emergency fixture. The Illumination Engineering Society, or IES, is our standards body, and they provide tables with recommended light output for all the various spaces within your facility. And our baseline in a project is typically 1-for-1 fixture replacement, but sometimes we need to augment the existing with additional fixtures, and that's where the design element comes in. Next slide, please. Once we've collected all the data, we'll begin to develop the proposal. And having your fixture quantities and wattages allow us to isolate how much of your utility bill is devoted to lighting. It's typically 30 to 35% of the total utility bill in most buildings. A very important part of the equation is your weekly burn hours, and we'll ask you to provide us with those for each of your spaces. The reason it's important is because Duke requires that a fixture burn 1,800 hours annually or 5 hours daily to be rebate eligible. There are 2 documents we'll provide. The first is the proposal narrative, and we'll detail the existing conditions in a narrative format for interior and exterior. We'll document your annual kilowatt hour usage and dollar savings, and of course, provide a simple payback for the period. One of the probably the most important elements of the narrative is an explanation of our leasing program through a local Raleigh bank. They'll lease the entire project, typically for 48 months. And oftentimes your energy and maintenance savings are greater than your lease payments. So you're cash flow positive from the very start. So for instance, if we can show that you're currently saving $800 a month in energy and maintenance, and your lease payment is $750, then obviously there's zero cash outflow. The second document is our detailed scope of work, and we actually show line item by line item every space in your facility and our proposed solution for that space. Next slide, please. Probably the greatest opportunity for energy savings is parking lot lighting. And a lot of faith communities lease their poles and lights from Duke Energy. You can tell this in 2 ways. The first is a vertical black and yellow sticker that Duke fastens near the base of the pole. And the second is the lease payments are broken out on your utility bill for those parking lot poles and fixtures. If they're not owned, well, let me just add real quickly that if you are leasing from Duke, you can ask your account rep to upgrade the lighting to LED. And Duke will do this at your request. Your monthly lease payments will increase slightly, but they'll be dwarfed by the energy savings you'll enjoy. If your poles are not owned by Duke, this is a great opportunity to use Greenhound's program to get LED lighting. And as I mentioned, the energy savings are 70% plus. Maintenance is a real issue with parking lot lighting because, as you're very aware, in order to maintain the existing lamps and ballasts, a lift is required. So that's an expensive part of the equation. The other thing I want to point out is that with legacy parking lot lighting, you may be familiar with the terms high intensity discharge, or vapor lighting. In either case, when you install a new bulb in one of those fixtures, the light output degrades so quickly that after 18 months, you may only be getting 50% of the original light output. With a LED fixture, after 10 years, you're still getting 70 to 80% of your original light output. So the improvement in light quality and security is significant. Our parking lot fixtures are warranted for 10 years. So our belief is that you shouldn't have to address parking lot lighting for 15 years or more at your facility. Next slide, please. Thank you again for participating, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, John. That was great. And I know we're going to have some questions. Just got a couple of slides here, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So that was fantastic in terms of talking about what the vendor will do once you sign up your project on Greenhound. But I just wanted to take you through how easy it is to get your project up to start the process, which is what we're in place to do. We really want to get projects going. And as you can see from the economics we've quoted, they can make a ton of sense right now. So there's no reason to wait. And because there's really no obligation to proceed, if it doesn't make economic sense, you really don't have to do anything. So how does it work? 5 simple steps. Go to Greenhound. For LED lighting, because it's going to require a walk through your facility, we're not able to provide proposals within 7 days like we are for solar. But what we will offer is we will connect you with one of our network partners, one of our LED vendors, who will get back to you and schedule a lighting audit. So go to greenhoundenergy.com and register. You pay $10 fee to put the project up, and that's just to keep the riffraff off the platform and make sure that the projects are real. Then you'll get contacted directly by a Greenhound solutions provider, and you'll schedule a lighting audit, which does not cost anything. So they will come to your facility and walk through and do the lighting audit, see what you need, and then they'll gather that information and put together a proposal. So you'll receive and review proposals from one of the vendors or all the vendors that are interested in performing the work, and then you decide and engage with the vendor of your choice. And throughout the process, Greenhound is here to act as an independent third party to help you understand the proposals and also ultimately decide whether or not it makes economic sense to proceed with the project and basically what your best options are. So 5 steps, really easy to get started. And we hope a lot of folks out there will take advantage of this because it's a good time to be doing it. The rebates are in place to make it really attractive, and not to mention the reduction in carbon footprint for your facilities. So with that, next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of the website, the Greenhound website, and you just go there to greenhoundenergy.com and hit sign up, and we just require some POC. So if you're the rep for your building, your facility, go ahead and sign up and start the process. Next slide, please. The next slide, I think, is just the thank you slide, but thank you, Sarah and Susanna, for giving us a platform to provide this info, and for John for providing insight. Really appreciate it. And I know we have some questions, so look forward to answering some questions. And John, hopefully you'll rejoin us with your video feed, and we can take some questions together.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Thank you, Ron and John. I've learned a lot, and I do know LEDs are such an important way for us to respond to the climate crisis and to love our neighbors well. So I'm really grateful to be learning about this with you. My first question, John, is just how long does a lighting audit take? And does that lighting audit cost anything?
We recently surveyed 2 Baptist churches. One is Trinity Baptist Church on Six Forks Road, which is by most standards a huge facility. It's 170,000 square feet and several buildings. That survey took 3 days. Conversely, we surveyed Midway Baptist Church, which is in South Raleigh, and that's about 110,000 square feet, and it took 2 days.
Okay.
We don't charge the community for the survey. We absorb those engineering fees, and if the church decides to move forward, obviously that becomes part of the proposal itself. But there's no charge up front for the survey.
Great, thank you for that. That's wonderful. Another question I have for you, John, is what are some challenges with retrofitting churches, and how do you address those challenges?
They're really the same, except for the sanctuary, as any other facility, classrooms, offices, etc. So I really don't see any difference, but in the sanctuary area, that's where the engineering services that our guys bring to bear really play out.
Great.
So I don't really see it as that much different from another facility except in that area.
Okay. One more question is that you mentioned Duke Energy rebates. So what if I or my neighbor who I'm talking with is served by a different utility, like a cooperative? Are there still rebates available for them?
When the State Corporation Commission set up this program with Duke, basically they tasked Duke with charging you a percentage of your commercial bill each month that goes into this rebate pool. So this is not money coming from Duke. It's actually coming from you, and you're getting it back when you upgrade. That program does not exist with the cooperatives. It's only with Duke Energy, and it's because of their sheer size. So there really aren't, if you're served by a cooperative, there aren't rebates.
Thank you. I know Susanna also has some questions.
I do, and I appreciate that. And many of you know that we're working, North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light is working very closely with cooperatives. So we do look forward to finding some solutions to provide for those in lieu of any current rebates available. John, really appreciated your presentation. I'd like to learn more about how your company handling the rebate paperwork, or is that something that the congregations must manage? I know you spoke a little bit about that, but often that becomes a big issue with regards to capacity from the congregation itself. So if you could speak a little bit more to how your company handles that, that would be great.
Thanks, Susanna. It's a very cumbersome process. Duke makes us divide up each fixture type by what they call measure. And for each measure, there's a different rebate amount, and we must submit documentation with each one of those when we submit the rebate application. So it would be very difficult for someone to do the rebate process unless they were doing it on a regular basis. So we handle all of that on behalf of the congregation. And we manage it to the extent that we track the check until it reaches the church.
Oh, that is such an offering. That will be something that we will definitely be communicating loud and clear, because I know that that's been a barrier for a lot of folks taking the next steps. With regards to LEDs as a lighting source, can you talk a little bit about their dimmability and if you offer any occupancy sensors for the spaces that you work in?
Sure. Without getting too technical, older dimming technologies don't lend themselves to LEDs. That said, we're seeing a new class of LED products that's emerging now, just in the last 90 days, that allows us to use that older dimming infrastructure, often referred to as triac or inline dimming. If it's a room, we just did a fairly large room for Crossroads Outreach. And they were retrofitting all of the 2x4 troffers in that space, and they wanted to add dimming. Well, we ran low voltage wire, we daisy chained it to each fixture, and that's an LED, an exclusive LED dimming system that'll work with any LED fixture. That, as far as occupancy sensors, yes, the same thing applies. We can actually, LEDs will work with existing occupancy sensors. And we also have newer occupancy sensors that are exclusively designed for LED.
That is awesome. Congregations have such different needs at different times of the seasons for different lighting levels. So I'm a big fan of dimmable lighting for sure. Another question is, how long can a job take to retrofit a typical church building?
A 30 or 40,000 square foot facility can be done in 3 to 4 days. A facility like Trinity Baptist Church would take 3 weeks to complete. So 30,000 square feet to 170,000 square feet. That's kind of the, and we probably wouldn't do a big church like Trinity all at once. They would probably break that up into segments.
Thank you, Ron and John again. John, thanks for being on the spotlight here. You're just taking our questions and really doing that like a champ. So I'm really,
I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for letting us just kind of interview you for a minute. I have one more question for you, and it's just, can you walk us through how no upfront cost financing works? How does that work?
Absolutely. We have an agreement with a very progressive local bank. Most regional banks don't have leasing departments, but this bank, North State Bank, does have a leasing department. And they'll lease the entire project. So if it's a $50,000 project, we apply a factor that they provide to us, and we multiply that times the total amount, and that gives us, for instance, the 48-month payment. So the church would pay a $280 processing fee and the first month's lease payment. And if they chose the 48-month lease, when they made the final payment, they would, at that point, have no further obligation to the bank.
Okay.
And a lot of leasing, I think it's important to point out that a lot of leasing programs, there's a built-in commission that goes to the middleman, in this case, the John Riley Group. We've waived any commissions from the bank so that we can get the very lowest rate, factor rate that they have. Obviously, if there's a commission, the factor rate is higher.
Right.
So we don't do that. And I just wanted to point it out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I also have a couple questions for you, Ron. The first is just, once I register on Greenhound, is there any obligation to proceed?
No, there's not. So we're making it super easy, and we know that people worry about the obligation to purchase something,
Yeah.
even if the numbers don't look great. So we've intentionally designed everything so it's basically absolutely no obligation. It's at that point you're gathering information, and if the information comes back where it's too expensive or it doesn't make sense for your facility, then of course you wouldn't proceed, and there's no harm, no foul.
Great. Wonderful. I love how intentional you all have been about really making this an easy process, and trying to serve the consumer, serve the customer. So thank you so much. One more question is, and it's, can Greenhound help us understand different proposals once received?
Yes, we absolutely can. And we understand too that, a lot of times non-experts are making these decisions or having to report back to their councils or their boards about possible projects. And so it can get complicated pretty quickly. For solar, for example, we have formatted all the proposals in the same way so that you can compare things apples to apples, but we're still available to consult if you need help understanding the different proposals. Same with LED lighting. So if you have questions about the proposals that you get from the different groups, we're happy to walk through it with you, or any member of your team to help shine some light on, what the opportunity is and what certain terms mean, for example, or other parts of the proposal. So, yeah, we're trying to be a resource, as well as facilitating this matchmaking process. So always there to help. And before we wrap up, I actually had a couple of questions for John, if that's all right. So John, one question I thought would be helpful for the audience in terms of understanding the rebates. What percentage of the cost of the LEDs does the rebate represent typically, just out of curiosity?
Well, there's the cost of the LED itself plus the installation cost. Are you
I'm just talking about the equipment, straight
okay?
equipment.
Well, right now, the most popular 2x4 troffer upgrade is an LED backlit flat panel that actually goes up in place of the existing troffer. And that fixture is $60 and the rebate is $40.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get the point across to everybody out there, is like the rebates are substantial. So, I mean, in that case, over 50% of the cost is covered. And then the final question is, if we have a community of faith that's not served by Duke Energy, does it make sense in some cases for projects to proceed without rebates? Have you seen that?
Absolutely. Just the dramatic improvement in light quality alone. There have been a lot of studies and a lot of white papers produced about just overall the improvement in mood and productivity and the reduction in accidents and mistakes in like a manufacturing setting. So we have offices throughout this market that have upgraded, and I have nothing but great reviews from the folks now enjoying those spaces. But then there's the energy and maintenance savings. A lot of folks want to see a simple payback of 24 months, but we also have a lot of organizations that are happy if they can get a 5-year payback. And the rebate's going to directly impact that.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. I have learned a lot. I've been doing this work for a number of years. I'm in my 10th year as director of North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light, and our Empowered, a comprehensive energy program for congregations, is really the key to the work that we've been doing in working to reduce our energy consumption and our carbon footprints as communities of faith across North Carolina. So moving into those calculations once the retrofits are made is a really exciting next step. And I love your company's tagline of bringing us into the future, John. That's where we need to be. And we have a special call to action for those of you that are interested in signing up. This is a unique time that we have where many of our congregational facilities are currently closed to the general public. So as John was talking about the different stages and timelines lines. We really hope that you're inspired to move forward and take advantage of these rebates and do these retrofits while we don't have the general public in communities of faith. Honestly, our buildings are used in a variety of ways and different stages, nights and weekends, and weddings and funerals, and all the reasons that we gather in community, and to really make sure that we're using our resources wisely and caring for God's creation as we are called to do as people of faith. So taking these next steps, and just want to give another thanks to Ron and John for spending this time with us. Our partnership with Greenhound has been one that I've been most inspired by in this year, of really building out options and accessibility, and letting other people take care of the paperwork. So thanks for that, John, as well. That's what you're professionally trained to do. And so as we build partnerships for you through our congregational network, we're really grateful for all that you offer. And Sarah, as our primary point of contact for congregations, as you work to educate, inspire, and mobilize communities of faith across the state, I know we're both really grateful for our partners, and again, just thanks, Sarah, for all that you do in bringing the hope-filled, positive responses to climate change as a moral imperative in North Carolina. So I'm going to go ahead and just put back up our contact information on the first slide here as I share my screen one more time. And we hope that you will take this recording. It is going to go onto YouTube. So we'll be sending out that link for everyone to be able to watch this in your community. Sorry about that. Saw my screen for a minute. But there is our contact information again. And the Greenhound website is greenhoundenergy.com. And NCIPL's website is ncipl.org. And we just look forward to being in touch, and wish you all a safe and healthy day. And yes, thanks again. Please share this information, and we're here to serve you. So be well, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you all.